you know one thing? I've got a hunch I'm never going to feel no other kind of. to be that way with me. Because I've only loved one man. I've got a hunch I'm never going to feel no other kind of love. to be that way with me. But I've only loved one man. I've got a hunch I'm never going to feel no other kind of love.
Dark Side of the Mic podcast, episode number 239. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is James.
I'm Steven.
And today we are live with a business owner in Lockhart, Texas, and Caldwell County Commissioner, Precinct 1 candidate, Taylor Burge. Taylor, thank you for joining us today.
I'm really happy to be here.
Actually, thank you for having us. We're at Good Things Grocery here in Lockhart, Texas. I'm pretty excited for this one. Also a little nervous. It's our first, I guess, political podcast, would you say? Like, that we have someone
first
that's
politician
actually...
on?
Yeah, first politician.
Well, you had Juan Mendoza on a couple years ago, right?
You want to take that
first
one?
Politician on. No disrespect. Right
yeah.
Shout out to Juan.
Yeah, shout out to him. Taylor, thank you again. So we'll start. We'll take it from the top, I guess. Where are you from? How'd you grow up? All of that stuff.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my husband Austin and I moved to Lockhart almost 10 years ago. 10 years coming up, or 9 years coming up in in December. We moved from Austin by way of grew up outside of Dallas in Rockwall, Texas. Mm-hmm. It's about 25 minutes east of Dallas. And when we were growing up, I've known him since I was 15 years old. And so we grew up together.
High school sweetheart?
High school, really good friends.
Yeah.
And then, one thing led to another as we got older, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we grew up in a town that was the size that Lockhart is now. And we watched it change, from being a small town, homey feel, right, to being just a massive suburb with poor development and poor growth strategies. And, when we moved to Lockhart, we moved here to start Chaparral Coffee, which is on the other side of the square. And our intention was, to just create a job for Austin. He's been in the coffee industry for years. And we found this little space, it's about 600 square feet. And we were like, this rent is cheap enough that even if we don't sell any coffee, then we can make it work, but at least we can have a job for him. And, people told us right when we moved to town, Lockhart doesn't need a coffee shop. No one's going to buy coffee from y'all. We were literally told, everyone just wants to drink community coffee and put some pumps of, chocolate syrup in there, and that's all that they need. And, on day one, we had a line, and it was, immediately noticeable that Lockhart did, in fact, want a coffee shop and want some of the stuff that we had to offer, So it was we're happy to be here. We moved to town with a 6-week-old son, and then had our daughter here in 2018. We had a home birth, and so she's one of the only children born actually inside Lockhart.
Oh, wow.
In a really long time. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I was born in Luling because by the time my mom gave birth to me, the Lockhart Hospital was closed down already, which is kind of weird that Lockhart doesn't have a hospital.
Yeah,
But
there's one coming, is what I hear. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the inside
I got
scoop, huh?
Some inside scoop, Being a small town business, downtown business owner, we talk to a lot of people every single day, and so we definitely, get little tidbits of what's going on, and people do come to us for all the local gossip. You know?
Do you get hit up a lot for like inside scoops and all that stuff?
All the time.
Yeah.
Literally all the time. You know, hey Taylor, do you know about this? So and so is going on over here. Do you know what's happening over there? It's a daily situation. For
So
sure.
I mean, I think I know, but why Lockhart? I mean, it kind of does it like emulate like where you are from?
It does. That was one of the draws, like where we're from in Rockwall. There's a little town square, and we spent a lot of time there when we were growing up. There was a little, church youth group concert venue, and we're both, I've been in the music scene since we were very young, and so we were hanging out there from a very young age. And it was charming to us. We also spent a lot of time here. Some of our very good friends own Loop and Lil's Pizza, and they at that time owned property. They still do own property out in Luling, and so we were spending time with them. And we'd always drive through Lockhart on our way back to Austin, and just like, cast some dreams, cast some visions. What if this? What if this? Wouldn't it be cool if when you walked around town, there wasn't, there were shops open and not just like such a sleepy little downtown area. We saw so much potential here, So
Yeah, and then that's what it's kind of grown to what it is today.
yeah.
So I mean, let's talk about also the position that you're running for.
Yeah, what does a county commissioner do?
Yeah, I get that question. That's the first question. So, and to preface, like, I didn't grow up dreaming to be a county commissioner. I don't know many kids that have that kind of dream, Most people, don't know what a county commissioner does. It's one of the lesser known, public entities, public things that people run for. The simplest way to understand it is it's kind of similar to, not unlike, and it's not exactly like, but it's similar to city council for the county. So, you've got city council, and so Lockhart City Council, Luling City Council, and they deal with primarily within city limits, right? County deals with outside those city limits. So they're focused on the more rural aspects. In Caldwell County, Lockhart is the county seat in Caldwell County, and, they hold Commissioner's Court, right, the courthouse right across the way. And they're dealing with, they meet twice a month. And they're dealing with all these different subdivisions that are coming through. They're being built along all these rural areas that are not quite incorporated within the city limits just yet. But they're the ones that are, at the table with those developers and advocating on our behalf as a community of what we want this growth to be. So it's a really important, and that's just one aspect. They deal with like the county budget, which handles like the county roads, right? So they're the ones that you call whenever you're driving out in Dale and you've got a pothole, and it's like, come on guys, come fix this pothole, right? That's one of the biggest things that people deal with and associate with their county commissioners. I was approached by one of my, favorite regulars, and back in late or early December, he asked me, would you ever consider running for county commissioner? And I was like, you're talking to me? Like, I'm not a politician, I don't know what that entails. And he gave me a little inside, scoop or whatever. And then I was like, just go home and think about it. And I couldn't get out of my mind. So I went home that night and just kind of did a deep dive. And I was like, all right, first question, what does a county commissioner do? And it came up with some really boring, generic Google searches, And then I was like, all right, what can a county commissioner do? And that led me to a whole different realm of things that got me really excited. And then I stumbled upon, I love podcasts, and I'm always listening to either an audiobook or a podcast when I'm like doing my walks, doing dishes, whatever. And, I found some different podcasts that were interviewing different county commissioners around the nation, around Texas, and the work that can be done on county level is really inspiring. And it's like there's a lot that could happen that you just kind of have to think outside the box. And what I understand is like when you get into office, you get into this role, it's not like you're given a training manual. It's not like they send you to a county commissioner school. You're kind of just like, all right, here's the procedures and here's how we do things and have fun, And then you're starting to be asked with a bunch of questions and tasks and things, committees that you have to chair and that sort of thing. So.
Is it kind of like how like presidents, they like have a little meeting with like the incoming president? Does that go on like with the past county commissioner and the new one like meet and kind of give a little handoff?
I've heard that. It's totally possible.
Oh, yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I've definitely talked with some of the county commissioners. I've talked with the county judge, Hoppy Hayden. and try to get as much insight. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I want to be as prepared as I can walking into this position, in the hopes that I win. So
You feeling pretty confident?
I am.
Yeah?
I am.
good.
Yeah. Precinct 1, where I'm running, so in Texas, county government is split up in 4 precincts all over Texas. And so Caldwell County has 4 precincts, right? And Precinct 1, where I'm running, where I live and operate businesses, encompasses about 80% of Lockhart. So this is primarily, someone who's supposed to be advocating for Lockhart and for that Precinct 1 people. The demographic has changed substantially in Precinct 1 in particular, and it's changing all over the county, right? And so it's not the same Precinct 1, it's not the same Lockhart that it was 4 years ago. And the cool thing is that because we own businesses on the square, we're talking to these new people every single day. They're coming in here, I just moved to town, I want to check out what my new neighborhood's like and stuff. I became a VDR, so that means I can register people to vote. And so as I'm talking with them, I'm like, have you registered to vote? And let's get you registered. I just registered someone tonight, as you guys were setting up.
Yeah.
And so I think, we're in touch with what is actually happening in Lockhart, in Precinct 1 in Caldwell County.
Yeah, which is pretty important. So all my homies out there, y'all go vote, man. Y'all get registered to vote. If not,
come see me if you need to get
come on down to
registered to
Good
vote.
Things.
Come on
get
down to Good
registered.
Things. I'll get you. It takes 3 minutes.
How would you
Yeah.
say that you bridge the gap between, those people that, like you said, new people that are coming and talking to you, and the people that have been here for a long time that are maybe, uncomfortable with change and things like that happening?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for what I call the legacy residents. These are people that, like y'all, grew up here. You've seen Lockhart, you've seen Caldwell County go through so many different stages, from being just only a farm town, to being kind of, one of the fastest growing counties in Texas, right? And so I have a lot of respect, and I understand, I have a lot of empathy too. I understand how hard change is, when we're going through life, there's so many things that change. I kind of feel like most people live about 3 different lives, as they're getting older and stuff. But change is a part of life. You watch you have kids, you watch your kids grow, you're watching them change, and like it or not, you change along the way. And so I think it's important to hear people and to empathize with them, and then help them navigate that growth and navigate that change. And I think sometimes just when people are able to express what they're concerned about, sometimes that's all it takes, because we can't be in control of everything. Obviously we're not, but it's who you've got with you, it's who's guiding you through all that stuff that really makes a difference in how you approach going through change.
Mm-hmm.
We got a question here from Freightzilla. Shout out to him, and he's asking, is she a Republican, a Democrat, or independent? And I'll kind of just transform that question. So where on the political spectrum would you put yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I get that. Obviously, that's like one of the second most popular question, right? I'll preface this by saying I think it's really a bummer that we have to pick a party to run under in this anyways. City council doesn't have to pick a party. They run a nonpartisan race, and they can have their own personal political beliefs and stuff. Where we stand now with the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, I align more with the Democrats. And so I am running as a Democratic candidate. And I really believe that we have to fight for voter protection and for the rights of our kids in our classes, and for those teachers that are coming and visiting me every day. And so it's them that I'm really passionate about supporting. With that said, it's not like we're dealing with a lot of these national issues here in Caldwell County.
Yeah.
So it's not like we have an abortion clinic here, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a border crisis right here in Caldwell County, right? So like a lot of those big national issues that people get so hyper-focused on is not what the focus of a county commissioner is on, which is why I think it's unfortunate that we have to choose.
Yeah. That's a good point, because a lot of people, like you say, the Democratic Party, and then they'll automatically just align you with all this stuff, like, oh, you think this and you think that, and it's just a label, to throw on you, and to, some might dismiss you and all that. But I think that these days, it's kind of just like, I don't know, it's just not fair, You have to do your research thoroughly and figure out, like, you can't just be like, well, this person's a Republican, I'm not voting for them, or this person's a Democrat.
And the parties have changed so much, like when I first was of age to vote, the first 2 go-arounds with president, I voted the Republican, and that's what I grew up believing. And then as I got older and things and priorities in my life changed, I aligned more with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's a good point.
As far as when you said voters' rights, can you expand on that? What you meant by voters' rights, especially in our area?
Yeah. So in Texas as a whole, the right to vote from what I'm learning is being it's really challenging. So to get registered to vote, you can't do that online. You have to meet with somebody, or you have to go to elections office, or you have to go when you get your driver's license renewed. You have to do it there. So it's challenging to get registered to vote. To actually go to the polls, they're only open certain times, and finding information is sometimes really cumbersome. Or the people that they've had, there's a big push from the Republican Party just had their big national convention to align what their priorities for this legislative session in Texas are, and I was reading through a lot of those, and one of the biggest chunks of things that they're trying to focus on is making it just more challenging for people to get registered and to actually go vote. And that is just devastating to me because, as America is we're a democracy in the sense that each vote counts, especially in these local elections when you're voting for your president, right? You vote, you cast your vote, and the public vote is not the one that gets it. It's electoral college that chooses, right? And that's where kind of the more republic side of things comes in. And I believe that, we have the power, and we should have the power to decide who people are going to be elected serving us, and we have the power to check them on that, And so one person, one vote. I just believe that's the way it should be.
Yeah, when I started voting, which I came around, my brother got me into voting. He's like, dude, you need to get up and vote. And so I did, and I was like, so you're telling me that, the majority of people voted for this person, but this person won?
Right.
And I was like, what the hell? And then I started having to do research and all that. So why do they do that? Honestly.
I wish I had the answer to that. I'm not that much of a historian that I know. I've tried to dig it. It's it's so complicated to get into that, It has something to do with the way that, the founding fathers set it up to create checks and balances. I think that, in my opinion, based on the history that I do know, that the founding fathers really believed that the people that were going to be running for these offices really cared about what their constituents wanted. And I feel like we've lost that on both sides of the party. I'm not saying that only Republicans have done that and only Democrats have done that. On both sides, it's one of those things where so many times when someone gets power, they abuse that, and then they forget that it's meant to be a service leadership position. It's not meant to be a power grab. It's not meant to be one of these things where you take money from all these big corporations and lobbyists and stuff like that to advocate for their cause. You're meant to advocate for the people, and I believe that firmly, that's what we're meant to do when you're serving an elected position. You know?
I mean, it happens time and time again. You give somebody some power, and they just kind of, their head just whoop, and they just kind of go crazy with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got, So the county commissioner,
So-
go ahead.
So what would you say, if you had a message to just tell someone that's, thinking about, hey, how am I going to make this decision? Because to be honest, I think most people that are voting for places for positions like yours, they don't maybe do all the research. They're just going off of blue or red. They just kind of say, hey, where does she lean? I'm going to kind of go with that. And
I've always said anybody that votes straight ticket, I'm sorry, you're a dumbass.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
For the person.
or for what you stand for, and kind of what you're trying to implement. But what would you say to those people that, I guess your message you're trying to get out to people that are trying to, make that decision? What are your points that you're running on? What is important to you?
Yeah.
That's the word.
The biggest point that I'm running on is that I feel that there's a lack of solid communication from the county commissioner's court to the people. And if I could do one thing, with this campaign, and then also, if I'm elected, it will be to communicate with people in a way in which they get it and then they get involved, And I think that's crucial, because like it feels like the people who are sitting on those seats now, majority, they just get so hyper focused on maybe what they're doing, and they forget that they're serving the public, and they forget to communicate with them. And if you look at the agendas for the county commissioners, if you look at the notes, if you watch the meetings, I've been going to the meetings, this entire year. I've missed 3, and it is hard to understand what they are talking about. And there has not been a precedent that's set for Caldwell County, but in other counties there have been. There's a commissioner that I follow out of Fort Bend County, Dexter McCoy, and I got to meet him this past weekend, and it was like, this is one of my heroes that I've discovered along the way. And he does such an incredible job with his social media, with his email campaigns, with their website, and saying, here's bullet points, here's what happened at Commissioner's Court, in a way that people can understand.
Is it the language that they use that is kind of hard to understand?
I think it's the language, the messaging, right? And then the way, they have a Facebook page, and it's just bullet points that are not well communicated. It's just it's like you really need to communicate with somebody as if they're in almost a middle school level, right?
Yeah.
In order for people to understand it. And that's just not something that that people understand. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert in communications, but I've done pretty well communicating with what's going on in our businesses, for the past 9 years. And it's a passion of mine to communicate with people so that they feel empowered, so they do walk to those polls knowing what they're doing. So one of the things that we've been doing along this campaign is hosting what I've been calling neighbor roundtables. And it's where someone in the neighborhood will host me and invite their neighbors, direct neighbors that maybe they don't have that close of relationship with, and let's sit in a circle and let's all talk about what we see, what we want for the future of Caldwell County. What are your concerns? What are some of the things you would love to see here? And let's just talk. Let's voice it all out. And sometimes, most of the time, people just want to be heard.
Yeah.
I
listened to I think it was a city council meeting one time, because if you have a problem, something going on, or you don't want a business or whatever, they encourage you to attend the city council meeting. So I watched it one time, and I was like, this is boring.
Oh, really?
And they're it's just the way that they go about things. And so I kind of prefer this platform, Corey, we can just get on and be like, hey, how are you doing? And talk like normal humans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because it is kind of hard to understand, like you were saying, some of the language and stuff that goes on, but let's just talk like human beings,
One of my, another one of my heroes is Beto O'Rourke, and he served in Congress, right? Something that he did on a regular basis while he was in office was to host town halls every single month. And he would host people in this informal setting where he would just tell them here's the agenda that we're going to be working through. I think this is when he was on city council, but he would talk to them about here's what we're working through, at city council, and do you have any questions or concerns? And he would have people attending that. I think just offering that, informal, because it's a government, right? So it has to have these formal ways of doing things. But I will say some of those city council meetings are better than reality TV shows.
Yeah.
There's some really good stuff that happens in some of those city council meetings.
And it's probably when people show up.
It is.
Right? Get off the couch and show up.
That's one of the things I love about being here is you can have an impact. It is honestly so easy to have an impact in comparison to getting anything done in Austin, Yeah. People will listen to you. And the biggest way to get people to listen to you here, your city officials, your county officials, is to show up in numbers, to voice your concerns and then show up in numbers.
Do you attend the city council meetings?
I watch it live or I watch the recorded things.
Yeah.
We've got 2 small children, right? And obviously it's hard to attend every single one.
Oh, yeah.
But I do keep informed with what's going on, and and then I let people know whenever they're coming in.
Yeah.
This happened. Did you see this?
What do you think about the good old local discussion group?
Oh yeah, I watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't engage with
Yeah.
it. I think that it's one of those things where in general, the people who interact with that and are sounding those alarms, I've never seen them actually show up for something.
Yes.
And we've been, at the coffee shop, we host this yearly witch's broom ride around the square, like around Halloween time. We like meet at the coffee shop and then go ride around. Everyone brings their broom and dresses like a witch, and like there's kids out there. You know, we bring noisemakers and like someone's playing a violin and stuff, and we just go around the square like our own informal little parade, and then we like have drinks and hot chocolate and wine and stuff.
Have fun
back at the coffee shop. Yeah. Well, some people on the discussion board did not think that was fun, and felt like we were
promoting witchcraft.
Yeah. So it got a little heavy, and people threatened to come out and protest us and pray over us that they could close the portal of hell, quote, that we were opening, and nobody showed up. So it was like this whole thing on the discussion board, and nobody came through in real life. You know. And I've just seen that time and time again, where there's a lot of talk that goes on there. But, if people if they really did care and they really wanted to make a change, then show up to your county commissioner's court, show up to your city council meeting, go to the historical commission board meetings. Like, there are ways to get involved. And all you got to do sometimes is use that as a sounding board to ask, where do I get involved with this? And then go follow up. Like it's you can get things done here and have a voice here, but Facebook is maybe not the place.
Keyboard warriors. We have.
I think people just like to complain, though. I think it's what it comes down.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just
and
so
it's
they can air out
so
their complaints.
easy these days to just like sit at home, and it's like, what are you doing? So in my household, like we have this rule. It's like no social media until you're like 18, right?
Yeah, that's so good.
And it's also so unpopular these days, and we're like pressured, and me and my woman have like conversations time and time again, like, are we doing the right thing, and all of this stuff, because I first got a cell phone when I was 18, and I started working, and I needed so my job can get in contact with me.
What kind of cell phone was that?
It was it was an LG Music. It was a flip phone.
There's a big difference between a flip phone and this iPhone that
a supercomputer.
Exactly.
To where you have access to so much stuff.
There's a book that I'm reading right now, I'm listening to, that's called The Anxious Generation, and I would highly recommend you looking into to really lay some, like they talk. Tons of studies are quoted in that, and it's like a bunch of research that shows exactly what you're talking about, that it is not right and not appropriate for these kids, and it's actually dangerous for these kids to get access to social media before, he says, the age of at least 16, and he believes that we shouldn't have, the kids shouldn't have smartphones in school, that they should put their phones like in like a baggie or whatever, or keep it in their lockers or something like that, and flip phones, he says, are fine. They're just like texting, calling, that sort of thing. But like, it's dangerous. And we've created a whole generation now, this alpha generation, the Gen Z generation, that are dealing with severe anxiety because they don't know how to communicate with people in the real world. And it's scary. Speaking as a parent, like, it's scary.
Yeah,
your
it
kid's
really
like
is.
just anxious and can't look you in the eye and stuff. And you're like, man, I was talking better with, people my own, like, grown-ups when I was a kid than I could even my peers, So, it's wild.
Do you know the author of that?
Oh, I could look it up.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm listening to it right now.
Yeah. Personally, I prefer audiobook just because I work at my job, and I'm able to like listen and whatnot. That's where I get the majority of my podcasts and all of that.
Jonathan Haidt.
Oh, okay.
Haidt, Jonathan Haidt.
I had listened to a guy on Joe Rogan, and he was kind of talking about the same thing, and he suggested also 16, because they make you, when you sign up, I think the age limit is like 13 or something like that. Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
Those kids are going through so many changes at that time. Like, it's not.
And then you see like all of like these like body images of like women and all that, and they feel like they have to live up. But it's like, hey, this isn't the real world here, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about showing up in the real world.
Right.
And it's just crazy. Like, know the difference.
Yeah,
when
I was growing up, like, we had social media, but like MySpace and Zanga and LiveJournal and that sort of thing, where you had to, do dial-up to get logged on, so you had to wait there 3 minutes for dial-up to go, And then you'd like really, I thought out my posts on that thing to the point where I would like write everything down in my journal and then copy it, like all of it onto the internet. I really thought about it. These days you just, you got Snapchat where you post something and then it just disappears. There's no forethought, you know.
Yeah. And then if somebody called while you were on the internet, it would kind of just like
Crash
drop
everything.
the connection.
Crash everything.
Yeah.
You have to
Or
restart
someone
it.
picked up the phone. Yeah.
Set up
Right.
AOL again.
That was wild. And everybody thought they were like a web creator because they had their MySpace like just
Oh,
personalized
man.
to
I
the
know.
T.
I knew that HTML was so good at that age. I've lost it all.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, I tell my kids, or I don't tell them. I talk to my woman, and I'm like, they're not gonna like go through life, and they're gonna be like, my life's messed up because I wasn't allowed on social media until I was 18. Like, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I can attest to that. I grew up homeschooled, and in a very evangelical Christian home, and to the extent where my dad actually wrote books on the toy and cartoon industry, and about how they negatively affected kids and opened kids up to the occult. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that my dad was saying in a lot of these books, but that's the world that I grew up in. And so, I mean, I didn't see a movie or like watch anything on TV until I was like 7 or 8, you
Wow.
know. And then when I was allowed to, it was only Christian stuff, you know. And so I watched like the Donut Man, and like, you know, bunch of different stuff on Christian television. And so when I was engaging with peers at youth group and stuff, being homeschooled, I didn't go to school, right? So like only at youth group was I engaging with peers, people my own age. And there was so many pop culture references. Still, there's so many pop culture references that I don't get. I'm fine.
yeah.
I'm totally fine. It's all good. They're really not missing out on anything. I mean, when you're a kid, you think it's the world, you know, like I have to get it, you know, but in the grand scheme of things, like, it's better as parents to protect those young, impressionable brains than anything else, because they can get all into that stuff when they're older, you know?
Yeah. I've been locked out of my Instagram. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's looking like I'm not gonna get back in. But it's been like a week and a half, and the day that it happened, and I was like, I was there at like the computer for like an hour, just like trying to get back in, and then I was like, I'll deal with this tomorrow. I gotta go to bed, and it's been like a week and a half, and I'm fine. I'm kind of not panicking like I used to, you know. But yeah, it's crazy. That's what it does to me, and I'm a 35-year-old man, you know.
Right.
Like, I'm like, damn. Let's talk marijuana decriminalization.
Yeah.
Because I saw you on KXAN.
Yeah,
right?
I was on 2 different news channels. There was 3 that were out there for that, and then 2 of them picked up my speech during the press conference.
So we've had El Cross
Yeah,
and
watched that
on the show from Mano Amiga talking about, they've done 2 appearances here. So they got the petition in, the signatures. So it's going to be on the ballot in November. What is your stance on all that?
I believe that it's important that we make a stance on it. So
My guy over here has 5 POMs.
Hey, calm down, bro. Calm down.
you know what's crazy though? Yeah, it's like, it's something that a person in my skin is not affected by these rules as much as a person in your skin, you know, and that really is the bottom line. As we're walking out and closing up shop at that at the press conference, and we're all like, we had some barbecue out there, and we're just like hanging out and talk. There was a young Latino man that walked in to pay his utility bill, and he was like, "What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing?" You know, and so I started talking to him about it, and he was like, "I didn't know this was happening, but this is great." You know, he said in 2012 he was in his backyard at his home, smoking a joint with some of his friends, and they weren't harming anybody. They were just like chilling out, you know, causing no disruption. The police come knocking at his door, and they were looking for someone that had the wrong house, and they were looking for someone that did not live there, but they smelled the marijuana. And so they seized, you know, the half of a little joint that was left and arrested all those guys. And it's still on their record today. They had to go to jail. They had to pay a bunch of fees. They had to get lawyers, you know. And it really derailed his life, you know.
Damn.
And that is the reason that we're doing that. That doesn't happen like, and to be clear, like I talked with our, I wanted to be really well informed on this before I did make a stance on it. And so talking with people that had those lived experiences was really important to me. And to just walk and see somebody that like had a true lived experience, like out of the blue, you know, was evident to me that this is something that, although it may not matter as much to people, like I'm sure you saw like Hoppy Hayden's response on the social media, like where he's like, there's other things that we need to be dealing with. This is like such a low to bottom of the totem pole. Well, like this is the thing, like he lives in his skin. And so it's not a priority to him and the people that he hangs out with, but it is that people that are in the Latino and the Black communities, are walking in fear every single day that they're going to be pulled over, that the police are going to smell something, whether or not they get arrested for that or not. And I verified with our district attorney here in Lockhart, Lockhart's not prosecuting low-level marijuana charges unless there's minors, right? So it's not something that we're spending a lot of time and resource and energy prosecuting in Lockhart. But what it is it's the fear that people are walking around, and that, going back to voting rights and people coming out to the polls, these people, that they don't want to get involved. They don't want to shed any spotlight on themselves because of one of this is weed, and that's just so ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think whenever
so
I
ridiculous.
first got in trouble here in Lockhart, it was me and a gentleman, and we ended up both going in front
Who
of
was it? No, I'm just kidding.
we ended up both going in front of Judge Jared here in the county office. And literally, he obviously he had a family that was doing okay, so they can get himself a lawyer, and I was kind of nervous, and I was ready to just hey, let me try to get rid of this, and I ended up getting 2 years probation for it, something like a half a joint right there.
Really?
And he ended up getting 6 weeks deferred adjudication.
Yeah.
And it's really, he paid a lawyer, his family
Yeah.
paid a lawyer, and that's really what it came down to. I kind of realized at that point, well, hey, man, this is kind of, I wouldn't say rigged, but it's just if you have money, it's a lot easier to figure these things out. If you have a family that has those connections and, is established, and that's why you're able to get away with those type of things, like in towns, especially in small towns, I think,
Yeah, and this is another thing, too. There's such a push from our higher legislative branch in Texas that to keep this, not, illegal, and even a push in national stuff to keep it illegal. And it's when are we going to wake up and realize that this is something that's helpful to people, And when the people come together and say that we want this to be something that is not, our families are not being torn apart with, then the people need to speak. And so I understand that decriminalizing marijuana in Lockhart is not going to change the fact that it's still illegal. I understand that,
Sure.
However, it shows that, when Elle was going door to door getting signatures for this, she said that 9 out of 10 people that she knocked on their doors were eagerly willing to say. And that shows that the people of Lockhart, the people of Texas, want this to be not an issue. Let us smoke weed.
When I was doing my research, prior to them coming on, and I was kind of iffy, but because I saw that Greg Abbott was suing the other
Ken
cities.
Paxton,
Oh yeah, there you go, Ken Paxton, that dirtbag. And I was what are these guys doing? Because it's still, but I was failing to realize that, it's got to start somewhere, and it starts, we're a democracy.
Right.
So if the majority of the people in your town say that they don't think that this is a priority and all of that stuff, well, if you're not listening, then what are you doing? Who are you representing?
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so if this is where it's got to start, and come on, we're talking
it all
about
starts
weed
somewhere,
here.
right?
Yeah.
We're talking about weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that press conference, I was talking about how, marijuana in Texas was, the prohibition on marijuana in Texas started shortly right before they ended the prohibition in alcohol. Honestly, if I could trade, which we had legal, I would say that we have more issues, more people dying, more people addicted to alcohol than we do. I'm not saying that we need to do anything about it, but I'm just saying alcohol to me is more dangerous than marijuana.
Yeah.
And it's been this whole push, end the war on drugs and that sort of thing. If we legalize it, I'm talking legalization, not decriminalization of this, but if we were to legalize it nationwide, it could be regulated and it could be safe for people. And then you don't have these chances, someone on Facebook thing mentioned, what about those joints that are laced with fentanyl? If it was regulated, we wouldn't have these black market things, because then people could just go to the corner store, have their IDs checked, have a card that they have to get or something. But it could be regulated, and then it could be safe for people.
Yeah.
And people could use it to help their anxiety. We've got this anxious generation, maybe we need to help them in some ways.
You don't gotta meet some shady guy in an alley.
I know.
to
We
get
don't
your
need that.
facts. Yeah.
Burner phones.
Yeah.
I don't do that, but yeah.
Well, you know about it, so
Yeah, I
that's
know
a good
about
thing.
it.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
ACC in Lockhart?
Yeah. I did a little. I am waiting to have a big stance on that until we get that service agreement.
Okay.
I watched y'all's podcast that you did with Nick,
Mm-hmm.
and I've talked with Nick, and Nicole Stevens is
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends that's on the vice president of their PAC that's trying to get that passed. And I've talked to as many people as I can about it, and I'm not sold on it just yet. And the reason why is that I believe that, as a homeowner, property owner here, I'm going to be paying taxes on it. And everyone, whether or not you have kids, whether or not you use the service or not, you're going to be paying taxes on it. And it's got to, in my mind, it has to be worth it for enough people for everyone to be paying taxes on it. So if everyone can't or doesn't use it, or if the majority of people say, like, I don't even know, 60%, 70%, I don't know what the percentage would be. But currently, I just don't know. There hasn't been officially like a stance on whether or not we're going to get a campus. As far as I understand, a campus could come later. The service agreement is not out yet, and so we don't know what it's going to look like just yet.
Yeah.
But I do not have a solid stance on that, and I'm honestly on the fence until we know what type of benefits it's going to provide all of Lockhart, because I'm really concerned about providing for as many people, especially when we talk about taxing them. Because we
Yeah.
have school bonds that are coming up, and in other cities that have got ACC to come to their town, they've had to pass school bonds to build a campus. And so if we don't have like a campus, a physical space where people can meet, and people are either having to drive into, San Marcos, by Peyton, we're closing up shop now. But if we don't have like a physical space, I don't know if it's worth it for all of Lockhart. And that's a controversial stance.
Yeah.
I want it to be worth it for everybody. I want to partake in it. I want it to be, in my dream, it would be a community center space where you would have classes where you've got older people going back for fun or to learn something they haven't learned next to 18-year-olds that were pulling out for their degrees and stuff. That's my 1990s, Gilmore Girls vibe. I don't know if that can ever happen, but that's, when I was talking to different people that work with ACC, they were saying that, most of their students are online. And maybe it could work out. I'm just not sold on it just yet. I think it could be really good for some people, but how many of those, if we're all paying for it, how many of those people is that a fact?
So when I first heard about it and they reached out to me and all that, and I was like, well, this is a no-brainer. Like, I'm on board. But, when you mention it and you stack on, like, the school bonds, and, I'm still on board, but because my thing is I'm like, well, come on, guys, like, open up your wallets for, like, the future of Lockhart, right? But it's at what cost? And who's utilizing it also?
Who's utilizing
I
it?
get that as well. But
and to be clear, the ACC just passed a free tuition pilot program, right?
Yeah.
We are within the district, or I might be getting my words right. We're in the district of ACC, right? No, I'm sorry. We're in the service area of ACC. So technically, our high schoolers that are coming out do get free tuition.
Yeah.
They have additional fees that if we were in a service area, they wouldn't have to pay. So already they're getting a really affordable rate for going right into ACC right now. I think it would be great. Like, I just have to be sold on it a little bit more. I think it would be great if we're having like some, I would love to see more trades workers being trained up here in Lockhart.
Yeah.
I think like the trade area is like, an underutilized area that
for sure.
offers so much job security, and like low tuition for that would be something awesome, So I need to learn more when they have that service agreement. But you better believe that I'm going to be there at the meetings. I've been on the meetings that I can attend that have been public so far, and I will be there, and I will be at the forefront of learning as much as I can so that I can have like, a firm belief of whether or not I can stand behind it.
Yeah, which is, you need to do your research in order to, have a stance on something and, strongly
It's
stand
important.
behind
I
it.
did the
Yeah,
math,
for
and
sure.
I'd be paying like around $300 a year. And that's a lot these days.
Is it?
You
No.
Oh my gosh.
Good Things Grocery here. So what is Good Things?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We opened up Good Things Grocery as a response to the pandemic. Like I mentioned, we have Chaparral Coffee. We opened that first.
Excellent. My number one choice in coffee.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
where I met Austin.
There's
Great
so
guy,
many-
by the way.
Okay.
And I used to work at Kreitz Market for a while.
Okay,
and
right
so
on.
he would go over there and get I believe some of the chicken or the turkey.
Turkey.
Yeah.
We still get that
and
turkey,
yeah, and he recognized me from going in there, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" So I would see him every time. But yeah, great guy.
Oh, that warms my heart. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's so many options now.
Yeah.
We're not guaranteed best coffee anymore, you know? But when the pandemic happened, our HEB was going through a deli remodel at the time. I don't know if you remember, but there was like hardly any deli meat in Lockhart at the time. And, people were having to stand in line for like 3 or 4 hours at a time just to get like essentials like milk, bread, deli meat, eggs, that sort of thing. And so we had to pivot real quick in order to remain open because like this is our livelihood, this is what pays our bills. We had a mortgage, it's just like we can't afford to not make any money at all. We don't like it can't happen. And so we're like, all right, we bought a used refrigerator from somebody that was selling one. We reached out to Happy Chick Farms that we already were working with. We reached out to Milking Milk, local milk in McGregor, Texas, outside of Waco, to get on their delivery. We reached out to ranchers that had meat to get their beef in there. Then we set up accounts, like wholesale accounts with other, places. I talked to everybody that I could in order to figure out how we could provide for our community in that way during that time. And it worked. It worked so well that we didn't qualify for some of the COVID help because we didn't dip in sales. We were able to sustain and change our entire business model on the fly in order to, survive. And then as the pandemic's wearing on, we're like, all right, maybe I was an event coordinator for the previous decade. And all my events dried up, obviously. Everyone was canceling their wedding.
Yeah.
It was a really tough week. I'm just every single phone call is like, all right, maybe we'll push it back 6 months, see where we're at. And then everything, canceled, postponed. I had one wedding that postponed 3 years. And finally we're able to get married 3 years after the fact. It was nuts. And so I was like, well, at the beginning of that year, I thought maybe it's time for me to get out of events. The kids are getting older, they're requiring more. Let's see what we can do. And so maybe, our heart has always been connecting people with their food. It's something that Austin and I are really passionate about. When we moved to Austin, we started trying to grow our own vegetables. We made soap, we made bread. We just tried to make as much as we could. We had chickens, we had sheep. We just tried to homestead. We're like, let's give this a shot. And we fell in love with just local farmers and, the local food movement. Oh my gosh, one little thing. Oh, is Peyton still here?
Peyton, get the fly.
Yeah. And so at that time, there wasn't a space available in Lockhart for us to create a grocery store. And we'd had the idea of a grocery store for a long time, but it always felt like this massive thing that we didn't have enough capital for and couldn't raise money for it, anything like that. And we found a space in Martindale, and it was really affordable. And we're like, let's just try and see what happens because we got to get all these groceries out because people are coming back for coffee. And so we tried the Martindale space. And it was, overnight, people were coming. And again, it was successful. And we have learned so much along the way. We eventually tried to do 2 locations, have this space when we found the space in Lockhart, because Lockhart's our home. This is where we wanted to be, And so we found this space and we're like, can we run 2 shops? And once the pandemic ended, Martindale went back to its usual business as usual, nobody was there, and that space just couldn't pan out. And so we put all of our focus into this space. And I mean, I have to be honest, last year was our most challenging year yet. Inflation hit us so hard. Rising of rent because of property taxes. We're on triple net here, so every year our rent goes up substantially. And then having to pay people more. I'm committed to paying a livable wage, and so I start people at $15 an hour. And we accept tips on top of that, which I know is controversial, but people want to tip us and tip my staff, not us. I don't take tips, but people want to tip our staff, and they understand. So my staff ends up making over $20 an hour, and that is incredible. I can't own a business if my people can't take care of themselves. So here we are, and we do a lot of local produce. We work with a lot of Lockhart local farmers, as many as we can, try to support them. We have local ranchers that we work with. We still, source from Happy Chick eggs, and even though it's expensive, like it's an expensive dozen eggs, but they're the best quality eggs if you're not raising them in your backyard. We have local sourdough. We created a smoothie program. I figured out that you can make oat milk for really easily and really cheaply, and so we make our own oat milk for our smoothies with local organic gluten-free oats, and we just try to, overall just try to provide for the community as much as we can.
How do you manage all of this?
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
You're making my head hurt.
It is a lot.
But it sounds good.
We have an incredible team that, everyone that works here is so passionate about what we do. My mom always told me growing up, and I'm not religious anymore, but she always told me that God only gives you what you can handle. And I also believe that we have these times in our lives where we are dealing with a lot, and it's not always going to be that way. And then I also believe in delegation. We can delegate things and put things around. But no, it is a ton of work. It's, I joke that it's not a profit. It's not a nonprofit, but it's not profitable, This is really a community service that we're doing. And I'm even trying to figure out, how do we keep this sustainable? Because food is not going to go down, and farmers need all the support they can get. And it's so important to me to connect people with their local food. For example, we hosted, my kids go to Clear Fork Elementary right down this road. And so the teachers reached out. They were doing a walking field trip. And they asked if they could bring all the second graders in Clear Fork over here. So I had 90 second graders inside this space. I reached out to my produce supplier, asked them if they would donate a case of carrots for us, and it was rainbow carrots at the time. So there was purple ones, yellow ones, white ones, And so I had my team prep out the carrots, and we made some little hummus for them. And I spoke to the kids about, just as quickly as I could, about the difference in locally sourced food grown by farmers that are in your neighborhood, versus store-bought, that has to be stored for a long time, that it travels a long ways, there's less nutrients in it. I don't know if any of the second graders got it, but they got really excited about trying purple carrots.
Nice.
And that to me is it's a gateway, right? It's you inspire these kids on one level, maybe we can get them for more later on, And I'm really passionate about working with our schools and trying to, figure out how we can do better by our kids here. I'm in talks with the district just as a concerned parent, because I found a grant opportunity through the Whole Foods Foundation, where if a district applies and gets awarded the grant, then the district is put on a 3-year program to transition their schools from ready-made foods to scratch-made foods. And the difference in scratch-made foods on a nutritional level versus ready-made foods is just night and day. And I've been to some of these parent forums that our superintendent, Mark Estrada, has hosted, in which parents are sitting around in a circle and they're talking about the issues in classroom behavior and disruptive behavior in the classrooms. And to me, I'm seeing there's two sides of that. There's the overconsumption of media that we talked about earlier, and then there's a lack of nutritional food. And when you combine those two things together, we've got disruptive kids in class. So how do we fix that? We maybe put, phones in sacks, and maybe we get them some high quality nutritious food to take care of them. So
we reached an agreement. The kids are hangry.
They're hangry. They are.
Better stuff.
They are.
Would you say that the overconsumption of social media is a parenting issue?
That's tricky. I think it's a societal issue, right?
Okay. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it does come down to the parents enforcing these types of things. But man, they've made it hard for parents.
Yes, they really have.
It's really, really hard.
I was speaking on, I was like, it's hard for us to implement it, but and I gotta remind my woman, I'm like, we have our foot, it's down, we're not moving,
but when you're tired and you've been working all day, and the kids are asked you 50 times, can I watch a show? Can I watch a show? I've said no a million times. Can I watch it? Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, turn it on, please. Watch it.
Get out of my face.
I don't care anymore. Mommy needs to chill out for a second.
Yeah.
So no, it's not just on the parents. I think it's a societal thing that we've allowed as a society. We've allowed this to happen. So I think it's broader than just parents. Parents, I believe that in general, parents are doing the best that they can. But sometimes parents are single, working parents. Sometimes they're working 3 jobs just to put any food on the table. And so they're doing the best that they can. I really believe that, you know? So as a society, either we're going to be, you know, not sticking up for these kids who nobody's advocating for them, you know, or we're going to say, you know, these kids are going to be working their jobs in like very few amount of years, you know, and then you're going to have some real issues. And we're seeing that already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is an issue. I'll be there, you know, like I'll just, it's almost like off of just like natural reaction. Like I'll pull up my phone and I'll start scrolling and then I see a video and I'm just like, and I'm like, oh man, I got to put this up. Like I got shit I got to do, you know? Yeah, it's pretty addicting.
It's hard. Yeah,
it is.
It's hard to be a human right now.
So COVID, like, well, I mean, I just wanted to get your opinion because we were talking about COVID and how it, you know, influenced, I mean, good things and all of that. I mean, what's your opinion on, like, as far as, like, how the government handled things, what went on and all that stuff, you know?
Gosh, what a can of worms.
Next 30 minutes.
Yeah, right? I don't know. Like, I was not the one making those decisions, right? We were handling it on the ground with the information that we had, trying to make the best decision, and we didn't make everybody happy, you know? It was like if we enforced masks, people weren't happy. If we allowed no masks, people weren't happy. I mean, I got scathing emails from people no matter what we did, right? Because it was an unknown. You can call it a hoax. You can call it like, you know.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
Yeah.
And so we were all scared. We're all trying to, you know, just take care of our neighbors, take care of ourselves, not kill anybody, you know. And, God, I don't know. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And the all I can know is, like, I feel that all of us are victims to it in some way or another. And our economy's suffering because of it, you know, and our society has suffered because of it. You know, my daughter, she was what, like 3 at the time, and now she's almost 6. And she was 2 almost 3. And, you know, she had to wear face coverings they were going to the Lockhart Montessori at the time. And I feel like her speech is delayed because she had to wear face coverings, because at that time of development, you have to really, the kids are paying attention to the way that you move your mouth in order to understand how they're supposed to move their mouth. And that's just like a side thing, you know, that's a minor thing. She's getting out of it, you know, she's been evaluated, she's been fine. But there's so many things that our society is traumatized by because of it. It's not even worth, to me, pointing blame on who did what. It's all in the past. How are we going to move forward? You know, like, we can sit here all day and debate if it was a hoax or if it was implanted or created or whatever. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. How do we protect ourselves for the next pandemic, you know?
Yeah, there for sure.
Could possibly be another one, you know, like in our lifetime. So I don't know. Millennials we've had a lot we've had to deal with.
A lot of stuff going on right now.
I'm like, I know that we're going to have to deal with something else. I don't know what it is.
I think there's
yet,
like 20 strands of COVID right now, too. Like another 20 kind of setups. So, I mean, I think it's just part of life now. So, something that we're going to have to deal with.
I got a little bit of hate because I go running and stuff, and I try and take care of myself. And I was just like, I'm not worried about this shit. Like, I was like, I'm not worried about it. Like, I feel like my body can handle it and all this stuff. Yeah, I got a little hate for that, but I mean,
we tested positive for it one time, but we didn't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate that we didn't, you know, suffer from it. But that wasn't the case with a lot of people that I knew, you know? So I didn't personally know anybody that passed from it, but I knew people that knew people that passed from it. So I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of like with anything. It's like if your body is in a fragile state, or if you have, you know, what are they calling them? Like precursors, or there was a certain word they were using.
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying.
And then the vaccines like seem to mess a lot of people up too, you know. And I was really hesitant towards those. I mean, I think my husband got, like, you know, that's too much information, but, you know, he got some. I got the one and done Johnson, and I was like, I'm just going to write this out and see. But I was concerned as a woman for the mRNA ones, based on the stuff that I saw. And so I was hesitant towards that. I believe that people who want vaccines should get vaccines. And if they're, you know, but I believe, you know, that it's a case by case. I believe in body autonomy. So.
Yeah, which is crazy because, you know, typically that's like a Republican stance, right?
Oh, man, but I am a Texan.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I do love liberty, you know.
Well, that's what I like about that, too, because I feel like I identify a little, like if the line was in the middle, I'm like a little bit too, I like to think I'm right in the middle.
Yeah.
But I'm like a little bit more towards the Democratic side, like
I
a little
like
bit.
It just depends on what it is. I agree.
You
know, depending on the topic, I'm gonna kind of
Yeah.
Just
Basically, I'll tell you what I believe in. You drop me wherever you want.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's
Like,
kind of frustrating that people kind of label you based on what you look like. Like so, so just for example, like I'm Hispanic or Mexican or Latino, whatever you want to say it.
You
But
get
like
to decide
I always get like well, hey, you must be pro-immigration. You know, you must be okay with this, and I'm not. You know, so like it's always a thing like just assuming based on how I look. You know, like what's important to me. But I think it's like able to make I think a sane person makes a decision on each topic.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes that means that you have to vote for somebody that maybe has more of those topics in line that you may not have fully agree with, but there's some things that are like, hey, you know, and then again too, it's what kind of person they are, you know, how, you know, their background and how they treat people and how they talk to people. Obviously that should go in there too. But as far as just saying, hey, this is the reason I vote for this because of a team, you know, I appreciate this team. I think that's where people get off. And I think that's what most people do nowadays. It's I'm going with the team that I think I should go with.
I'm hopeful that you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, I mean, based on, you know, the people that comment in the Lockhart discussion group, I just feel it's like that.
Yeah. Based on the people that I talk to in real life, I think you might be wrong.
Okay. All right.
And it skewed either way because it's like we're not talking to like the whole. We haven't done a survey poll or anything like that, you know. But the people in the discussion board have loud voices online, and then the people I'm talking to in real life. They're real people, you know, and they don't fall in most of them don't fall in any one line, but they're issue based and people based, you know.
Yeah. I think next week we have a gentleman coming on the show who was on the discussion group, made a post, and he's a preacher here in town, and he wasn't too happy about Pride Month. And
oh wow,
so,
the one that got like over 500 comments. That one.
Well, to be fair,
I stopped reading when it was at like 200.
He didn't really say he wasn't too happy with it. Just the way he pitched the comment was to show that there was going to be some type of
I was low-key tempted to go to his church service just to hear what he said.
We agreed to go, so that way he could do him on podcast.
On Sunday.
You know,
kind of like a trade-off. Like, I'll listen to what you have to say. But the thing about that to me is, it's like if you go hear the sermon, it's a one-way thing, you know.
Yeah.
And as to where, like, when he comes on the show, it'll be like a two-way thing. But, you know, we're gonna be respectful and all that. We're not gonna drag him through the mud.
I genuinely do believe that people agree and can be neighborly more than they think they can.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I have so many friends that are in the LGBTQ plus IA stuff. Like, there's like close friends of mine, you know, and I 100% support them. Like, we have a little sticker right on the side that says like all are welcome. It's like a rainbow flag, right? And to me, like, I don't even notice the sticker anymore. But to people who, like we're talking about with the decriminalization, people who walk in fear every day, they know that they can come in here and it's a safe space for them. And I just think that, like, when I see people talking, like, they don't know, like, if you see someone, a stranger, like, you don't know their political beliefs, you don't know, like, you don't know the hatred in their heart, and maybe just the fear in their heart because of the fear and unknown, you know. But most of the time when you start talking to somebody, you're going to be friendly. We are Texans, you know. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're living in Texas. We are the friendly state, you know. Like, that's what our motto is, friendship, you know.
What do you think about, like, in schools, like, people have strong opinions about them teaching, like, and this is from what they say, that teaching about, like, being gay and, like, all of this stuff and sexual orientation and all that, because so I have a little story. I have my daughter, and she was in junior high, and sorry, Adri, but your daddy's a podcaster, and she was like, hey, I got something to tell you. I was like, what's up? She's like, I'm gay. And I was like, well, that's cool. Like, I don't have to deal with no dudes, you know what I mean? Like, in my opinion. And I was like, I don't care. I love you regardless. And I had my own opinion. I was like, I think this is just a phase. Mm-hmm. I think that because she hung around a group of her friends, and I felt like it was just a thing to be. Like, you know, this is a thing. And I ended up giving her my opinion and all of that. And I think it turned out to just kind of be like a phase, you know. But I was like, how did this come about? Like, why is this a thing? You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's the teachers or if it's like, I didn't know what it was, you know. But, you know, people have a strong opinion about it being taught in schools and all of that stuff. And I don't necessarily think, like, schools like social studies, math, you have health class, you know, they have the talk with you and all of that stuff. But if it is being taught in schools, I'm kind of like, well, like that talk should be left up to me. You know what I mean? Like as a parent, you know, not necessarily to like teachers and all of that, if that's what's going on.
Yeah, if that's what's going on. I think like in general, I think teachers are probably having to fight for the attention of your kids more than their peers, you know? So it's like when kids are learning about different things, I think kids are inherently curious, which is one of the coolest things about kids, right? And so I just have a hard time swallowing that kids are being like indoctrinized by their teachers. I think that again it comes back to this social media issue, and like say your kid liked one thing on their social media account, like, or their friends did, right? And then the algorithm sends them all into this whole world that they didn't know, and all of a sudden they're exposed to things that they weren't exposed to before, and say it happened while they were at school, but it didn't come from their teachers necessarily. You know, I'm just posing this as a hypothetical thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think that, like, you know, the teachers that I know are having a hard time even educating the kids. So, like, the idea that the teachers are the ones that are indoctrinating and converting our children to join, you know, the queer community, I just find that really hard to believe, because I think in general, most kids don't see their teachers as being, and I would love to see that's changed, but like I think in general, like it takes a lot for a teacher to inspire a kid to make a bold lifestyle change like that.
Yeah.
And I just like I don't see that. I think that it's important for teachers to educate kids on being welcoming and accepting and not bullying other kids that are different from them. And I think that's probably along the lines more so of what they're trying to communicate in schools, because bullying is huge in schools, especially in, you know, small towns. Like if you're different, then people are going to pick on you, you know, and whether or not you're queer or just weird, you know, like people are going to pick on you. And I think that I just have a hard time believing that, you know. Growing up in the church too, I felt like I was, you know, victim to a lot of indoctrination, you know, and because I heard the same things over and over again, and that's what like people were talking. But I didn't learn and question and talk about sex and talk about, you know, the queer community and all that kind of stuff with parents or with youth group leaders, you know, in my life, or adults in my life. I was talking to it with peers. And that's, to me, that's where kids are learning all this stuff from social media, from these algorithms that just drive me crazy, you know. And so I have a hard time believing that it is in fact the teachers, because teachers, do you know how much education as a teacher has to go through in order to become a teacher?
Yeah, it's a lot. And then
librarians alone have to have like 6 years of education or something. It's insane.
And then the pay that they come out with.
And then the pay, and it's not like they get pay raises often, you know, like you're kind of stuck, like making you, to become a teacher, especially in Texas, to become a teacher, you have to be so dedicated to just loving on kids and investing in them. And I just don't think there's enough teachers that are trying to turn kids gay. I just don't.
Yeah,
that just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like something that was sent out, just to be clear here, from the junior high about
grab another one for
about
sure.
certain type of classes like that? But because I'm pretty sure, like I saw and I did some research about that, they had a mailer out, and they let parents know that, hey, we are going to have an option for students to take this class that does cover, and I'm not sure if it was trans rights or LGBTQ rights, but they sent that out. And then of course, whenever it got into the social media here, a lot of parents kind of took it, hey, they're making our kids do that, when it was an option to them. But don't you think even the fact that it's an option getting pushed out that talk about those type of things is something? Because, for example, to me, if you say, hey, I was raised in a situation where I'm getting indoctrinated because I was raised in a church, well, if our kids are spending so much time and they are getting certain messages, I mean, that's a still form of indoctrination, even if it's not, you know, if it's not exactly the same message, you know. But I think if we're still spending that much time with things that they're seeing that this is an option for a discussion, which, I mean, my personal thought is it's against biology, you know. That's something we've taught, you know, and learned our entire lives. But now that thought process changes, why do you think, or that Do you think at all that should be a topic in discussion in a school? Because it is,
Yeah.
but you had to accept that option.
Yeah.
I think my point of view is, why is it an option? Why is that important from I guess a taxpayer school to be showing my child?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to we are all living in this society together, and I think it's appropriate that everyone have their own beliefs. Not everyone sees eye to eye in the same way that you do, right? But we are dealing with a society of people that the queer community, that community is rising in population, like it or not. This is a rising population of people. And so when you're dealing with like social studies or something, how can you cover everything if you're not also talking about some of these, these grievances that this group of people in our communities are dealing with, And so I think if you're talking about like in school, and I don't think this is happening, but how gay people have sex, for example, or something like that, I think that's inappropriate. We shouldn't be talking about that.
For sure.
If you're talking about the challenges that someone who identifies as LGBTQ is facing with laws that ban their existence in some places, or trying to ban their existence and to make it impossible for them to exist in life. Like, we just got gay rights for getting married, like not that long ago, and these are people that, they don't see life the same way that you do, but they exist in our communities, and they had to fight for those rights, just like women and African Americans and Latinos had to fight for the right to vote, So that's part of social history. That's part of our history, and that's something in a social context, in social studies or something along those lines, should be, I think, discussed. In a biology course or something like that, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's the way it's being taught, though. I think it is like, here are the facts that have happened historically. Here's some protests that happened. Here's why this law was passed, in those scenarios, and like what they have faced as a community. And I think that's important to share. It's important to understand what people in your community, the challenges that they have faced,
Yeah.
Do you think social media has an option to that as far as a rise in more people becoming LGBTQ and that?
Wow.
Since you're getting predetermined to this and exposed to that, do you think that has a kind of, like you said, it may be a phase.
Yeah.
It may be an option based on what they see.
I'll add a comment on top of that. When one thing that I told my daughter, and because I there was some pushback, like very little, although I didn't, just because like I want her to be comfortable like with herself, and I didn't want her to like be a follower pretty much. And I had a hard time believing. I was like, when we were in school, there was like 2 gay kids in like the whole school, not necessarily the grade. And now it's like every corner you turn, there's like one, which there's nothing wrong with that. But there were also
to some people there is, right?
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
But
and go ahead.
No.
You threw me off. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But I mean, so I guess my thought process, because we live in a free country, everybody's allowed to think what they thought, have their own assumptions. I mean, if that person that doesn't agree with that lifestyle thinks that way, that doesn't make them a bad person.
No.
That doesn't make them incorrect at all either. That's just how they decide to live their life. And
Correct.
I think a lot of this is you get demonized for not saying, hey, I have to accept this type of lifestyle into my life as a norm, when you actually don't. You can choose to stand your ground or whatever you want, as long as you're not disrespecting or handling
being
someone.
I
an
think that's the
asshole.
key right there, is
Yeah.
that you can live your truth as long as other people are allowed to live their truth as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we all can like sit at a table and have a conversation and be neighbors, and then that's fine. I to your question about like whether social media has changed more people to be queer, I would love to see some kind of research done on that, because I think that's such a loaded question. I think that, as far as I know, in our history as humans in civilization, there have always been queer people. There have always been people that are like this. The Native American, in many Native American tribes, they have members of their community that were of a third spirit. This is something that is not new. What is new is people feeling comfortable to be out in their communities, and especially in small town Texas. That is new. So I think that these these queer kids have always been there, but they've been closeted, and now they feel a sense of safety, which I think is a success.
Yeah.
You know, to where they are out in public, you know, and they're not having to hold it. So we've hopefully seen a drop in suicide rates because of that. Because I know so many kids, like growing up, like that I heard about, that, you know, their mom found out that they were looking at gay porn or something, and they committed suicide because of it. I knew of a friend whose dad was a pastor, and he was a closeted homosexual. And, you know, when someone found out about it, he committed suicide. You know, so we're dealing with people's lives here. And if you identify as, you know, within this queer community, you have a target on your back. And for you to be bold enough to say, I am loud and proud, you know, is a testament to the safety that people are feeling and able to do that. And I think that you don't have to agree, and they're not expecting you to agree and, you know, join them on the queer pride things necessarily, but I think they are expecting you to be neighborly to them and to say, I don't agree with your way of thinking, and I don't understand it, you know, and that's okay. And I will speak to that too. Right now is Pride Month in nationwide, but in Lockhart there's a lot of pride activities that are happening, and I think it's one night this week. I don't have the schedule memorized, but there is a Q&A. And I would encourage you to, you know, I could introduce you to some people that are in that community that you wouldn't even know that they are, that could maybe shine some light into, you know, how they think about the world. And I think it's always a positive thing to understand someone else's perspective on that, you know? Mm-hmm.
I think that like these I think that like what happens is they're like, so you're brought up, you're a kid and all that, and you see everybody, and it's like, oh, well, I gotta get a girlfriend, and they're like talking to a girl, and they might have a girlfriend, and they're like this isn't doing anything for me, or you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like, I think you're born that way, you know. There's some kind of something in your brain, you know, and I think they don't have a choice, you know, and they realize that, and it's a struggle within themselves, and that in itself is like kind of hard to imagine, because I tell my kids, and, you know, we all have, like, things that we don't like about our body or whatever. And I was like, you have to come to terms with these things, because if you don't, then you're going to have a hard time. Like, you have to be comfortable in your own skin, you know, and to just think that, like, you know, the feelings that you're feeling, you can't, like, come out and express them must be a motherfucker to deal with. You know what I mean? And so back to what I was saying, where when I told my daughter, I was like, well, there was, like, 2 kids in my school, but in reality, like, you know, now that we're older, like, there's a lot of kids that like I went to school with who are now adults that are like, you know, homosexual or whatever, you know. So maybe they weren't comfortable coming out, but then I'm like, kudos to those guys who were out there in like junior high just like not giving a fuck, because like, you know, they just didn't care or whatever, you know. We went to school with one gay guy though, and like nobody dared call him gay or anything, because he was from the streets. Like, he would throw down, dude. So, yeah, nobody talked mess to him.
To your point, too, about, you know, should public schools be, you know, even spotlighting or highlighting or thing, I think it's a testament to public schools that these kids do feel safe to come out in public school. And I think that it's part of, like, their history and their identity that they want their, you know, peers to know about. And, again, not in an indoctrinating way where they're like, you should come join the dark side and become gay, you know. I don't think that's the intention. I've never met somebody who's been like that. And I know a lot of queer people, you know. And I think that, you know, kids, especially in rural Texas, you know, are becoming more comfortable in their own skin. And I think also as a human, you're always learning different things about yourself, even as you get older, you know. So, yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
It's 2024. Like, you should be able to, like, do what you want. And I always say, as long as you're not causing a ruck, or, like, I wouldn't say that. So, harming people or being disrespectful to people, you should be able to do what you want. I
agree.
You know? Dang, I had a thought and I lost it. Yeah. You got anything?
No, I mean, those are pretty good answers. So
Yeah.
I liked the response. And
I had a good one. I lost it. Yeah.
That's from the heart, I promise you.
Honestly, yeah. CTR, you're going to be in the parade?
Yeah.
You excited? You seem excited.
Yeah, I am excited. And I laugh because I feel like Lockhart is, as far as future politicians go, Lockhart has not dealt with type of future politician that I am, because I really like, I understand that the race that I'm running against BJ Westmoreland, and that's
he's an incumbent, is what you would
he's
call
an incumbent,
it.
yeah, and you know,
What does that mean?
he's held the position. He's holding
Oh,
the position right now, so he's like the one who's already held the position before, and he's a very well known name in Lockhart.
I know him pretty well.
You know, and I'm not running a hate campaign or anything like that. I'm not throwing him under the bus, anything like that. You know. The demographic of this area has changed substantially, and so I don't know if that name holds as much weight as it did 4 years ago. So on the flip side, though, I have to build my name recognition, and so that's why you'll see, my signs all over the place. And I kept them up all year. I did my due diligence. It is legal to keep them up on private property, and so we did that because I want people to know Taylor Burge, and also I want people to understand that I'm a woman. Because Taylor can go either way, right? For the parade, because we're having fun, my buddy came up with this T-shirt design that has a picture of Taylor Swift on it, and it says, "I'm not a Swiftie, but I stand with Taylor," and it says at the bottom like, "Okay, actually, I am a Swiftie," so I'm going with the Taylor Swift theme for the parade instead of like just doing like the classic politician, all your political signs, red, white, and blue, and just waving, and that being that, which is what a lot of the other people running are going to do. I wanted to do something that would make me stand out. And that I don't know how it's going to be received just yet. I understand that what I'm doing is running for a very serious position. So I don't want to make light of that. However, we are in a parade, and I think parades should be fun.
For sure.
So yeah, we're going to have the old...
I like it.
The old chaparral truck, and decorated with some Swiftie vibes. My campaign signs will be on there as well, and we'll be playing some Taylor Swift songs. And I have a bubble machine someone let me borrow, and yeah,
nice.
It's gonna be fun.
You still need people to go and hand out?
Yeah, I do. I need 3 more people. If I haven't checked my DMs yet lately, but I need 2 more people. Really, to come pass out. Me and my son just made these buttons today, so I got this button maker, and we've been pressing buttons all afternoon, and so yeah, I've got buttons to hand out, and I want to have some push cards with info on it about my campaign and why I'm running, and just to increase name recognition.
Are your kids excited?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, they are. I mean, especially when I told my daughter that it's Taylor Swift theme, so she's pumped.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. All right.
It's going to be a long, hot day.
Saturday, right?
Saturday, yeah, Saturday morning. Yeah.
Saturday morning, and then right after that, we're going over to the St. John's Colony for their Juneteenth celebration.
Okay.
So that's something that I'm, dedicated to be there for. I was personally invited by a couple of people, and I'm so excited to finally get a chance to see the St. John's Colony and learn more about their legacy and, celebrate Juneteenth with them,
It's right down the street.
That's this guy's neighborhood right here.
Yeah, it's right down the street
right
from my
on.
house.
Have you been there before?
Yeah, a couple times.
Cool.
I grew up here, so I used to go there. When
You want to go buy weed or what? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not giving out all those good deeds.
I'm really excited. It's going to be good.
So I think we're kind of shutting it down.
Yeah.
Tell people, I guess, how they can vote for you, what your goal is, that type of thing.
First, come down to Good Things and get registered, right?
Yeah. If you're not registered to vote, come see me here at Good Things Grocery. We're open daily from 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. I'm usually here Monday through Thursday until about 3 o'clock. If you just want to come talk with me, I love talking with people every single day. My kitchen staff especially, they're just watching me talk with people nonstop. And so we're constantly engaging with the community. I have a map up here finally that shows the Precinct 1, so we can look at the map and see where you live and see if you are in Precinct 1. And if you're not in Precinct 1, you're in another precinct, I'd love to share with you about other people that are running. There's Precinct 3 is a commissioner's race as well, and Margarito Zapata is challenging the incumbent, and I really believe in him. He's a firefighter.
Is that
and he's
the one
awesome.
you sent me?
Yeah.
Precinct 3. And then, there's other candidates that are running to protect our schools in particular. There's Tanya Lloyd, who's running for Congress in our district, and she was my son's first grade teacher at Clear Fork.
Oh, nice.
And she is the first person and woman that Caldwell County has seen run for Congress, and I think that's awesome. And she is running because she wants to fight for our kids in the schools. And then there's also Desiree Venable, who is running for a state representative. They're the ones that actually write the laws, and she is also fighting for women's rights and for the rights of the schools to continue.
So I'll put this map up on here real quick of the precincts, and the precinct 1 is that the green right there?
And it's so many different colors. So it's a yellow. It's all the 100s. So we've got like 100, 101, 103, 108. You can check if you go to my website. I put a link on my website. It's taylorforcaldwellcommissioner.com. And you can check on there which precinct you are. And when you go in there, it'll say, you put in your date of birth and your address or something like that. And it'll say like you're precinct 103 or 406 or something like that. If you're in the 100s, you are in precinct 1. So if you're in precinct 1 or precinct 3, come talk to me. And let me share with you more about our candidates that are running and what we really want to do for Caldwell County and the people of Caldwell County in bringing people together and really opening it up and it not being such a secret or this sense of a secret of things that go on, because the fact of the matter is that county government is directly impacting your lives.
Yeah.
And if you don't know and you want to know and are curious about knowing, it's likely that some form of county government is touching your life right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you get to be a part of that. You get to cast your vote and be a part of that. And your vote in county elections and local elections actually does matter, unlike the presidential elections and electoral college, right? So
which is
one
what
person,
everyone's,
one vote. Everyone's so focused on that.
Yeah.
I will be honest with you, I don't care who you're going to go to the polls and vote for president. I want you to know about who you're voting for in your county and your Congress and your Senate, because those are the people that are going to defend you or be in alignment with you and go to bat for you. Those are the ones you can call on the phone legitimately and talk to.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important. Make your voice heard. A lot of people died to get this right to vote.
Yeah.
And we need to honor that, and we need to be a part of that and participate in that. So
yeah. I found that a lot of people don't really care to even register until there's an issue that they have. They come up.
Well, we have an issue. We got marijuana on the ballot.
Yeah.
And we got ACC on the ballot too. Those are two
sure.
tremendous things that are going to impact a lot of people's lives, and we believe that it's going to bring people out to the polls. It did in San Marcos, and they saw a drastic turnout because of it. So
80%.
Yeah. I believe that we can do the same thing in Lockhart because I've already seen the community action that we've got going on here. So
yeah. For sure. One last question: what's the best thing that y'all make here? I see y'all have a kitchen. Kitchen. What's the best thing that y'all make that you would prefer?
Yeah. So our two top selling items that are, we're people call us a health food store. I feel like we're a good food store. We make this the sandwich that we call the Good Bet, and it's Kreitz smoked turkey. It's bacon, pickled red onions, chipotle mayo, and some mixed greens.
Yep.
And it's on rye bread that's locally made in Kyle, and it is 100%. We sell more of those Good Bet sandwiches than anything. And then my comfort food during the pandemic, a recipe I developed, our pimento cheese, and it's comfort to no level. I'll send you guys away with some if we've got some.
It hits, as the kids would
say. It does. Yeah.
Also, Chaparral, the Sammy. Ooh.
Yeah.
They put me
Sammy
onto that.
I know.
Yeah.
The only reason Austin put a sandwich on the menu is because there's no good breakfast sandwich in Lockhart.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no good breakfast sandwich, though.
Yeah. The Sammy's good. Taylor, thank you.
Thank y'all so much for having me on.
For sure.
I really appreciate y'all dipping your toes into hosting a political candidate.
Yeah. No more. Nobody else call us. No more. No mas.
We'll get a couple more.
Live debate. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, you're asking for Juan Mendoza. So.
Yeah. We'll get waiting for Juan.
Let's go.
Next couple.
All right. We appreciate you.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you back here again next week.